When you look at your reflection in the mirror, you must begin to understand that what you see is not the entirety of who you are. This outer shape, whether long or short, wide or narrow, muscular or soft, is only the outer layer, the visible expression of something that remains invisible. It is not the truth of you, only a portion. And if you mistake this portion for the whole, you will forever be chasing illusion. A tall body, just like a short one, is not a coincidence. It is not simply the result of genetics, of parental lineage, of nutrition or circumstance. Yes, these things contribute, but they do not define the purpose. The form you were given was selected with precision by the same intelligence that designed the galaxies, that pulls the tides, that blooms a flower in silence and cracks stone with a root. It is important to look beyond the surface and ask the right question, and that question is not, why am I like this? But rather, what does life wish to express through this? Because everything in nature is functional. The tiger's claws, the wings of the eagle, the silence of the snake. Each characteristic serves a purpose in the grand dance of life. And you are not outside of this dance. Your body, tall or short, is your tool. It is your companion. It is your gateway into mastery. But it is not your value. There is a deep wisdom in understanding that the tree which stretches far into the sky also must endure the fiercest winds, and the bush that stays close to the ground may never see the sunrise first, but it survives the storm more easily. You see, every advantage brings with it a responsibility. Every strength carries with it a test. A tall body may draw attention, may command presence in a room, but attention can become ego if it is not tempered by humility, and presence can become arrogance if one forgets that the height of the body does not equal the elevation of the soul. On the other side, a shorter frame may feel overlooked, dismissed, or underestimated. But this is where the fire begins, because the moment you are underestimated, the universe gives you an opportunity, the opportunity to develop quiet strength, to cultivate the inner flame that does not burn to be seen but burns to remain alive. That inner fire is often the most powerful. It does not flicker in the wind. It does not need applause. It does not demand recognition. It exists because it must. It grows in silence, and in silence it gains power. The tragedy is that many people spend their entire lives wishing they looked different, wishing they were taller, wishing they were shorter, wishing their body was more like someone else's. But this wishing is a waste of energy. It is like a bird wishing to swim, or a fish wishing to fly. The eagle never compares its wings to the tiger's claws. It simply understands what it is and fulfills that design. But humans, with their gift of self-awareness, often turn that gift into a weapon against themselves. Instead of cultivating, they compare. Instead of refining, they resent. And so they suffer, not because of their form, but because of their failure to understand its sacred purpose. In the temple, we train not to compete with one another, but to deepen our relationship with the body. Every movement, every breath, every repetition is a reminder. This body is my vehicle, and if I train it with awareness, if I listen to it, if I move with it rather than against it, I will unlock the full potential that was hidden within it. A tall student learns to manage, reach, balance, grounding. A shorter student learns to move quickly, to remain close, to strike with compact precision. The tall one may strike from afar, the short one may strike from below. Each learns the truth. It is not the shape that matters, but the mastery of that shape. Consider the bamboo. It grows tall and flexible, it bends with the wind, but it also grows from a root system that is hidden underground for years before anything breaks the surface. The tall form is not just beauty, it is the result of years of invisible growth. And so too with you. If you are tall, remember that your height is not your strength unless it is rooted. A tall body without grounding is fragile, but a tall body rooted in presence, humility, and awareness becomes a shelter, a guidepost, a beacon. The monk who stands tall without ego becomes a pillar others can lean on. The tall body then becomes a symbol of service, not superiority. If you are short, you must realize that power does not need height to exist. The spark that ignites the fire is smaller than the flame it creates. The seed is smaller than the tree it becomes. The heart inside your chest beats quietly, yet it powers your entire existence. There is nothing weak in being compact. There is only strength waiting to be focused. The short body, when cultivated with intention, becomes a container of concentrated energy. It moves fast, it endures longer, it flows through obstacles that others must go around. It is not a burden, it is a blessing if you understand how to wield it. But again, this requires a change in how you see. Most people look outward first. They ask, how do others see me? But the Shaolin way is to look inward first and ask, how do I see myself? Because the way you see yourself becomes the way you treat yourself. And the way you treat yourself becomes the way you move through the world. If you see yourself as lacking, you will act with hesitation. If you see yourself as incomplete, you will chase approval endlessly. But if you see yourself as complete, as a unique expression of universal intention, then everything changes. You begin to walk differently, breathe differently, stand differently. Not out of pride, but out of understanding. One of the greatest traps in modern life is comparison. The constant noise of images, ideals, and measurements. The silent pressure to fit a standard that is artificial and temporary. But the monk learns to quiet the noise, to return to silence, to listen to the body, not to the opinions about the body. Your height is not your problem. Your lack of awareness is. And the moment you become aware, you become free. There is no ruler long enough to measure your spirit. No tape can wrap around your intention. The tall person who walks without presence is smaller than the short one who walks with purpose. So the body must be trained, yes, but not just with weight and movement. It must be trained with breath, with attention, with discipline. The tall body becomes powerful, not just because of its reach, but because it is inhabited fully by the one who owns it. The short body becomes powerful, not just because of its compactness, but because its spirit fills every corner. There is a sacred phrase we use: walk as if you are carrying the temple within you. It means to move with respect for yourself and for the life inside you. When you walk like this, it doesn't matter if you're tall or short, people will feel something when you enter. They will feel stability, serenity, strength. Not because of how high your head reaches, but because of how deeply your feet connect with the earth. The form you were given is the result of countless generations, infinite variables, and unseen intelligence. It was not chosen at random. It was chosen for your path, for your lessons, for your purpose. If you spend your life rejecting it, you will never discover what it came to teach you. But if you accept it, embrace it, study it, and elevate it, then you will unlock doors others do not even see. To become fully alive, you must inhabit your form fully. Be in your body, not outside of it, not in the fantasies of what it could have been, but present with what it is. Feel the length of your arms, the rhythm of your stride, the position of your head in space. Feel how the air moves around your shape. Feel how your body responds to effort, to rest, to touch, to silence. This is the path of embodiment, and it leads to wisdom far beyond appearance. In the mountains, we sometimes sit and watch the clouds move. They pass over peaks and valleys without judgment. The cloud does not say, "That mountain is too tall, that hill is too small." It simply moves, it flows, it observes. And in that movement, it reveals a deeper harmony. You must become like this. Not judging your form, but understanding it. Not resisting it, but using it. Not diminishing yourself, but realizing that your size is not a limitation. It is a tool. Just as the flute and the drum make different sounds, yet both create music, your body creates its own expression. Your purpose is not to change instruments, but to learn how to play the one you were given with mastery. This is what we train for. This is what we meditate on. Not perfection, but precision. Not uniformity, but the leaf on the top of the tree sees the sky. The root beneath the ground feels the earth. Both are part of the same being. Both are needed. Both are sacred. And so too are you. Whether your head reaches high or your steps are small, you are not separate from the design. You are part of it. You are never missing anything. You simply have not yet realized what is already within you. Judgment is one of the most subtle prisons a person can live inside. It begins quietly. You notice something different in yourself. Your height, your weight, the sound of your voice, the way you move. And instead of meeting that difference with awareness, you meet it with resistance. You say to yourself, why am I not like them? And from that moment, you split yourself in two. One part lives in the body you were given, and the other chases the body you wish you had. And between those two selves, suffering is born, because no peace can exist where judgment lives. And no mastery can be achieved when you are ashamed of the very instrument you've been given to master. In our tradition, when we wake in the early morning before the sun rises, we do not begin our day by looking in a mirror. We begin by sitting in stillness. The mirror cannot show you who you are. It only reflects the shape. But the shape is not the being. The shape is not the intention. It is only the container. And yet so many are ruled by it. So many allow the outer to dominate the inner. But a practitioner must reverse this. A warrior must begin from within. The monk does not ask, how do I appear? But instead, how do I move? And, deeper still, what energy moves me? If you have a tall body, it is easy to be seen. But this visibility is not always a blessing. Sometimes being seen means being exposed. Sometimes it creates the illusion of strength where there is only insecurity. And so the tall person must ask themselves, am I standing tall out of alignment or out of pride? Am I carrying myself with presence or simply trying to be above? Because height, like fire, must be masked. A tall flame can illuminate or destroy. And so the burden of height is to develop inner stillness, to learn that presence is not the same as performance. A person who is truly aligned does not need to be tall to command attention. They need only to be centered. The tall student in the temple is often challenged to bow more deeply, not because their height is a problem, but because humility is a path. When you tower above others physically, you must learn to balance it by lowering your ego inwardly. You must practice walking through doors, not just with your body, but with your awareness. Because every step you take may affect others. Every movement may seem more pronounced. This is why attention must be trained, not to seek praise, but to cultivate mindfulness. The taller your form, the more vital it is to stay grounded. The tree that grows without roots is the first to fall in a storm. But if your form is shorter, you may feel like the world overlooks you. You may feel like you must try harder to be noticed. But this is also an illusion. The greatest masters do not need recognition. Their power is not in their shadow, but in their presence. The shorter frame often carries within it a fire that is not meant to be seen, but to be felt. And this is its gift. While others reach with their limbs, you reach with your intensity. While others expand outward, you concentrate inward. The shorter body becomes a forge, a crucible. It holds the heat and refines the spirit until it is pure. In meditation, we often say that the most powerful movement is the one no one sees. The shift in breath, the change in thought, the return of the mind to stillness. These are invisible victories, but they shape your life more than any visible act. And so if you are short, do not see yourself as less. See yourself as condensed, not small, but focused, not lacking, but precise. The greatest transformations happen in silence. The seed breaks open underground long before the world sees a single leaf. The challenge for both the tall and the short is the same: to live without judgment. Because judgment clouds the eye and poisons the breath. It makes the tall wish they were invisible and the short wish they were taller. It pulls you away from your own experience and places your worth in the opinions of others. But this is not the way. The way is to return to the body, to return to the breath, to return to yourself. There is a discipline in becoming your true self. It requires more than muscle, it requires more than strength, it requires silence. because in silence the illusions fall away. You begin to hear the truth again. You begin to sense that you were never flawed, that your height, your form, your body, these are not obstacles to overcome, they are doors to walk through. But the door can only open if you stop judging it. The door only opens when you bow before it. Not out of defeat, but out of respect. In the temple, we often speak of the mirror of the mind. When your mind is cloudy, everything you see appears distorted. A tall person may feel cursed, a short person may feel invisible, but when the mind is clear, you begin to see the truth. Every form has its purpose. The tall body sees further, the short body moves faster. The tall body may block wind for others. The short body may pass through narrow places unnoticed. Each serves a role in the great play of life. But judgment turns these roles into prisons. The tall one becomes ashamed of standing out. The short one becomes obsessed with standing taller. But in reality, neither needs to change. Both need only to wake up. To wake up from the dream of not enough. To wake up from the dream of too much. There is no such thing in nature. Nature does not judge the ant or the elephant. It simply expresses through each, and so must we. The key to spiritual strength is not to be seen by others, but to be seen by yourself. To look deeply, not at your reflection, but at your presence. When you enter a room, what energy follows you? What silence do you carry? Do you arrive with peace or with performance? The world does not need more tall people. It does not need more short people. It needs more conscious people. People who have ended the war within themselves, people who have stopped judging the mirror and started polishing the spirit. A master is not made by how they look, but by how they live. The tall monk who walks in silence teaches more than the loud one who stands in pride. The short monk who moves with precision transforms more than the one who craves recognition. And this is the work: to master the body you have, to inhabit it fully, to listen to it deeply, to stop judging its shape and start understanding its message. Each day you judge yourself, you weaken your energy. Each day you embrace yourself, you strengthen your presence. This is not about pride. This is not about self-esteem in the modern sense. This is about alignment. When you are aligned with the body you were given, your actions become effortless. Your breath becomes deeper. Your movements become purposeful. You stop trying to be someone else. You begin to refine who you already are. There is a clarity that comes from self-acceptance. It is not loud. It does not shout. It does not need validation. It is quiet and unshakable. When you see a person who has mastered their form, tall or short, you can feel it, not in their height, but in their presence. They do not walk into a room, they arrive. And in that arrival, everything shifts. This is what we train for. Not to be taller or shorter, not to be admired, but to become aligned. To bring our outer form and inner energy into one. That is mastery, and that is freedom. Because when the mind stops judging the body, the spirit becomes free to express itself. And when the spirit is free, nothing is impossible. In the stillness of morning meditation, you cannot measure height. You can only feel breath. You can only feel awareness. You can only feel truth. And truth does not concern itself with size. It concerns itself with depth, with sincerity, with discipline. The warrior's strength is not in the size of their frame, but in the quality of their focus. And that focus begins when judgment ends. Let your body be what it is. Let your form be your tool. Let your breath guide you back to sender. And let the silence within you remind you that you were never too much and never not enough. You were simply waiting to remember who you are. To become what you are meant to be, you must first stop resisting what you already are. The form that you have, whether long and lean like the bamboo, or short and steady like the mountain stump, is not an accident. It is not a mistake to be corrected, but a blueprint to be realized. But this realization only happens when you stop fighting with your shape and begin to move in harmony with it. There is no evolution without cooperation. The body is not your enemy. It is your companion, and if you do not listen to its nature, you will always move against yourself. No warrior ever became strong by denying the blade they carried. They became strong by sharpening it. And your body is that blade. It must not be wished away. It must be honed. There is a power that awakens when a human being begins to move in rhythm with their natural design. The tall person begins to feel their spine as an extension of heaven. They realize that their form was made to reach, not only with the arms but with the mind, the spirit, and the presence. They stop slouching to disappear, and they begin to rise, not in arrogance, but in grounded nobility. Their height becomes a bridge between the earth and the sky. They walk, and others feel a quiet dignity, not forced, not postured, but real. Their steps are wide but careful. Their movements are strong but controlled. Because they are no longer moving against themselves. They have stopped apologizing for their height and started honoring it. At the same time, the shorter person begins to feel the weight of their body no longer as something holding them back, but as something anchoring them to the moment. Their movements become efficient, precise, and fast. They no longer try to stretch themselves beyond their natural shape, but instead learn how to concentrate energy within their space. They move closer to the ground, closer to center, closer to the power that comes from stability. They understand how to generate force from stillness, how to strike without warning, how to endure longer and maneuver with agility. And in this, they find a unique power. The power of being underestimated, the power of being overlooked, and still emerging with quiet certainty. But none of this can happen if the mind is polluted. If the tall body is filled with shame or superiority, and the short body with envy or resentment, then movement will always be clumsy. Breath will be shallow, presence will be scattered, because the mind determines the quality of motion. What you think of yourself determines how you walk, how you sit, how you breathe, how you stand. The untrained mind wants to imitate, the awakened mind wants to embody, and embodiment is the path back to wholeness. There is a great teaching hidden in the daily training. The moment you stop measuring your form against others, your energy begins to circulate differently. Tension releases, judgment fades, attention sharpens. You begin to experience your body as a sacred vessel, not a defective shape. And the breath, this ancient bridge between the inner world and the outer world, begins to deepen. You inhale, not just air but life. You exhale not just carbon but resistance, and little by little your awareness shifts. You no longer think like a person trying to fix something, you begin to think like a person trying to uncover something. Because that is the truth, you are not broken, you are buried. Beneath years of mental programming, cultural expectations, silent insecurities, and inner conflict lies a spirit waiting to emerge. It is not the tallness or the shortness that hides it. It is the tension inside you, and this tension dissolves only through practice, repetition with awareness. Each movement must be a question. Not, am I doing this correctly, but am I here with myself fully? Because if you are not here, you are nowhere. The tall student who walks with presence creates stillness in a room. They do not need to raise their voice. Their very being carries volume, but only when they have trained not just the muscles, but the awareness. To be tall and unaware is to be clumsy. To be tall and awake is to be majestic. This is why in the temple we do not teach students to imitate the master's movements. We teach them to embody their own movement with the tall body must learn not to dominate, but to flow, not to intimidate, but to protect. That is the responsibility of power, to become a guardian, not a threat. A short student, likewise, must learn that they do not need height to be effective. They need precision. A single well-placed movement can disable a threat. A single sharp breath can change the energy in the room. The short frame, when refined, becomes a weapon of pure efficiency. Nothing wasted, no unnecessary motion, just clarity, just impact. But this cannot be achieved through comparison. It can only be achieved through surrender. You must stop wishing to be different and begin wishing to be awake. And when you awaken to your form, you begin to see something very beautiful. you begin to notice how each part of you is in conversation with the world. Your spine speaks to gravity. Your breath speaks to space. Your hands speak to the energy around you. When you raise your arm, it is not just muscle that lifts, it is intention. When you step, it is not just a movement of the leg, it is a decision to continue forward. Every motion is a reflection of inner alignment. And this is why the ancient masters could communicate without words, because presence is louder than speech. A tall person in alignment teaches through stillness. A short person in alignment teaches through motion. But both teach the same thing: self-possession, mastery, harmony, not with others first, but with oneself. And only from this harmony can anything else follow. There can be no peace in the world if the individual walks in war with their own form. There can be no wisdom if you are constantly wishing to escape the body you were born into. Do not try to become something else. Become what you already are. Become so deeply yourself that everything in your being radiates coherence. When you move, move with the weight of your entire presence. When you sit, sit with the stillness of a mountain. When you speak, let your words come from the center, not from fear, not from pride, but from rooted truth. The world does not need more actors. It needs more embodied humans. Every morning you wake up is a new chance to re-enter your form, to take back ownership, to feel what it means to stretch, not just the limbs, but the awareness. The tall body must stretch downward, not physically, but spiritually, reaching into humility and groundedness. The short body must stretch inward, expanding energy and intention into the present moment. Both must stretch in different ways, but both must stretch, because the one who does not stretch becomes stiff. And the stiff cannot adapt. And the one who cannot adapt will suffer. We train not to win. We train to become available to what life requires. Sometimes it requires stillness, sometimes it requires movement, sometimes it asks us to reach high, sometimes it asks us to stay low. But if you are in conflict with your form, you will resist what is needed, and in that resistance you will suffer. But if you are at peace, then you become like water, able to rise like mist, or sink like rain, able to strike like a wave, or nourish like a stream. Your body is not just a tool, it is a teacher. It holds lessons written in posture, balance, breath, and effort. It teaches patience when it is stiff. It teaches humility when it is weak. It teaches gratitude when it heals. But only if you listen. If you ignore it, you will only feel pain. But if you listen, even your limitations become instructions. Even your fatigue becomes a doorway. Even your shape becomes sacred. The tall must learn to carry lightness in their frame so as not to become heavy with ego. The short must learn to carry power in their presence so as not to become small in their spirit. These are not instructions from a book. These are discoveries made on the floor of the temple, through breath, through sweat, through silence. And they are open to all who are willing to stop performing and begin practicing. There is no shortcut, there is only the path. And the path begins when you stop comparing and start embodying. The path deepens when you stop resisting and start refining. The path becomes clear when you stop wishing and start being. And being begins with breath, deep, grounded, present, no height, no weight, just you. The person who masters their shape becomes shapeless, not in body, but in spirit. They become free, free to move without shame, free to speak without pretense, free to serve without hesitation. They become like the elements, not fixed, but faithful to their nature. Fire does not ask to be water, earth does not wish to be sky. Each does what it was born to do, and in that doing, there is peace. You too were born to move a certain way, not to copy, not to chase, but to realize. And realization requires patience. It requires repetition. It requires falling and rising again, not to prove anything, but to polish something, to uncover what is already inside. And what is inside is not determined by how tall you stand or how short you sit. It is determined by how present you are with each moment of your form.